Hi, this is Darren from Property Prosperity. I just finished up an open inspection tonight. It's a house I'm selling, Mansfield Park actually. I don't know if you're from Adelaide, but you know where that is. And we had quite a few people rocked up to the open, which is really awesome. I had a couple I was having a bit of a chat to, and this house was about 9 years old, and they were weighing up their options. They're deciding whether they should buy this house, which obviously I think is awesome, and they should, or whether they should buy a block of land and build a house. So I had a bit of a chat to them about their options and the pros and cons. And I suppose I'm in a fortunate position that I help people buy blocks of land and build houses as well, and as well as selling houses. So I wanted to try and be as well. Either way is good by me, and likewise I want to be as independent as I can, and because I've built been involved in thousands of property transactions and I've built hundreds of houses, so I can give them a really good insight into things they need to consider. So the number one thing you need to think about if you're weighing up whether you should build or whether you should just buy an existing house, hi Darren, thanks for joining me, is whether you need to move in straight away. So if you need to move in straight away, then got no choice. You got to buy an existing house. So that's pretty much sorted that question out. If it's not urgent and you've got a bit of time, then you've still got the option, okay, do we build or do we buy a existing house? The next point then is, what's your situation as far as your finances go? You might find that, particularly some people now, particularly in Adelaide, we have a first homeowners grant that goes to people if they build. So they get $15,000 if they build. If they buy an existing house, they get nothing. So if you're a person that doesn't have a lot of savings, that really sways it up towards the option of buying a block of land and building, because it's really going to help you out. You might be able to get into a property that you otherwise might not be able to get into. So and then the other thing on finance-wise that people point out is the fact that you can save some money on stamp duty. So you buy a block of land, you build a house, you're only paying stamp duty on the land, whereas you don't pay any stamp duty on the new house to be built because it hasn't been built yet. So with an existing house, you pay stamp duty on the full amount of the house. So you imagine a block of land's worth $200,000, a house is worth $180,000, so that's $380,000. So you're only paying stamp duty on the land for $200,000. If you were to buy the same thing worth $380,000, you pay stamp duty if it was a built house on the full $380,000. So you can see it's roughly about 5% for stamp duty. So you can see that's quite a considerable saving between buying a block of land and building and an existing house as far as stamp duty. And remember, stamp duty is basically a waste of money. You don't get to spend it. It's no good for you. It just goes towards the government. I'm sure they use it wisely, but for you guys, it's not really a good thing. So obviously, the more you can minimise stamp duty, the better. The thing to understand though, when you're saving, when you're buying a block of land and building, there is additional costs on top of just the stamp duty and the cost of the land, the cost of the house. The other cost is the fact that when you buy a block of land and you will settle on the block of land, and then the build will happen, or take a period of time for the actual build for the house to be built. That period of time you own the land, so you're going to be paying interest on the land, and then you're going to be paying interest until the house is finished off. So whereas if you buy an existing house, it's finished off straight away, you can move straight in and you can start living there, so you get the benefits straight away. With a block of land, and you can't live in it, so you're just sitting around waiting for the house to be built, and it's just costing you money basically. And you might be renting somewhere else, so it's costing you money in rent as well as costing you money in the interest in the house, or likewise you might be having to sell your house, so that means you have to have two houses at the same time. So that's the thing you got to watch out for. Hi Shani, thanks for joining me today. Thing to consider, you are saving some money in stamp duty, but to be honest, it's almost offset by the amount of money it costs you in interest. So I don't get too hung up on the savings in stamp duty because it's sort of offset anyway. So probably the main benefit for these people I was talking to would be the first homeowners grant, the $15,000 they get from the government. And at the end of the day, that's free money, so you don't want to disregard that. So the other point I talked about, their situation was they could afford to buy an existing house. So they didn't really need the 15 grand, but at the end of the day, it's free money, so it was all good. But hi, Josh, thanks for joining. So yeah, so they had, they could do either way, really, based on the numbers. They could still go either way. So then it comes down to really the hassle factor, I suppose. If they've got somewhere they can live now for the time being, and they could wait till it got built, but then it'd be good for them to move in their new house. So that wasn't really a factor finance-wise wasn't really a factor because they could go either way of that option. So then it's really a matter of, do you want the hassle of building? And to be honest, it's not an easy thing building a house. It's something that's going to take a period of time. You got to go around, pick out all your doorknobs and the colors, but for some people that's an amazing experience, and they get to then design the house that they really want. And they obviously, the problem you get with an existing house, it's always somebody else's house. Like, someone's designed that house to suit what they want, and then when you come and buy that house off them, it's never going to be what you've always wanted. You can come in and do some renovations and tweak things around, but at the end of the day, it's always a compromise compared to what you always hope for. So the benefit of building is you get to actually design the house from scratch, pick out all the colors, pick out all the doorknobs, pick out all the taps. Everything's exactly what you wanted. And so you end up with the house of your dreams, and you're not having to compromise at all. So that's definitely a bonus, is the fact that you can choose the house you want. The downside is the factor of, you can't walk inside and have a look at it before you bought it. So basically, with an existing house, you can walk inside and have a look, and you can see what you're going to get. With a block with an existing house. Hi, John. Thanks for joining me. John's a builder, so he's going to have some interesting chats about the whole building thing. So yeah, as I was saying, so we've got the option of building, or whether we go with the existing block of land. So you can see, it's whether you want to go with the hassle factor of building a house. And one thing John will be able to explain a little bit about this for me too, is the fact that sometimes what happens too with the whole building process, I don't know if you know anyone that's ever built before, but occasionally, or quite often, unfortunately, sometimes, is that people say they had a really bad experience with the builder. In my experience, it's not necessarily that they had a bad experience with the builder. It's probably their expectations from the start weren't realistic, and their expectations, firstly, on the quality and the inclusions they're getting on the house, but also what it's actually going to cost them. I think some of the difficulty there is maybe the communication that's come from the builder to try and explain what they're going to get and how much is it going to cost. Sometimes that may be intentional, sometimes it may not be intentional. Some building companies are try to be as honest as possible and try and give you all the information up front. But obviously, if you're a builder and you're trying to win the job, obviously everyone wants the cheapest price and they want everything included. And so the danger then is you might feel inclined to, quote a cheaper price. In reality, though, at the end of the day, all the builders are working with the same stuff. All the same materials. The tradies will get paid about the same. They've all got to make about a similar sort of profit. Otherwise, they're going to go broke. So, you got to really understand, they're all going to be around the same price. If you're quoting up the same thing, it should be about the same price. And if it's not, the crazy thing is sometimes, I've had clients in the past where they get quotes from different builders, and it might be $50,000 difference between different builders. So there's no way there's going to be that much margin that a builder can just drop the price by 50 grand just because he's a nice guy type thing. So what you should really be questioning is, okay, are they giving me a realistic price? And if the price is so much different, you should be questioning, why is the price so much different? It just doesn't make sense. So, and quite often, one of my other posts I've done before is, if the price is too good to be true, then maybe it is, So you should really query whether that's a realistic price. So, because the danger with that is obviously you'll come in there looking at building, and then, you're expecting to pay a certain price for the land, a certain price for the house, and then the whole process starts, and then halfway through you find out, well, even before halfway through, a quarter of the way through, you find it's going to cost you more than what you're expecting. That's when the whole building process becomes really stressful, because the problem with a half-finished house, you can't live in it, you can't rent it out, you can't sell it, you can't do anything. You're basically stuck. So what are you going to do? You can't do anything. Really, you bought your block of land, so you got to keep going. So just end up having to borrow money off your friends or get a second job or a third job, and it just creates huge amounts of stress. And that's when, when you hear people say they've had a bad experience of building, quite often it's because they just become stressed out about the whole process. And a lot of that time is finance-wise, just end up costing them more than they're hoping to spend, I suppose. So I've gone through some good points and some bad points. Obviously, I was selling the house to them, so they were weighing up both options. Either way, for me, I'd rather point out the good things and the bad things, and they can make a decision. Because at the end of the day, there's no point pushing people into something they're not keen on doing. So otherwise, particularly if you're trying to sell a house and you sign up the contract, that's great, but they're going to go away, have a think about it, might have second thoughts, and at the end of the day, they'll pull out of the contract anyway. So there's not much point doing something like that for me. I'd rather just be as open as honest as I can. And again, they're more likely to go ahead and less stress for everybody then. So I've had a question from Shani here that I just thought I'd quickly ask you guys. She's asked me whether I should develop or build my own house. So, and just mentioning out to you guys too, if anyone else has got any questions, feel free to put it in the little comments box there. I'm happy to try and answer any questions along the way. And if anything I said there made sense, then click a like, and I'll really appreciate that. If it didn't make any sense, then you can click a like anyway, and I'll try better next time. And if you think someone else might get some use out of what we've been chatting about, just yeah, it'd be really great if you clicked on the share button, and hopefully they get some use out of it. So Shani, whether you should develop and build my own house. So yeah, just weighing up your options really. Like I just said, you know, it's the hassle factor, you know, weighing up against getting what you want really. You know, at the end of the day, the existing house is always somebody else's house. You get to build the house you want. It's your house right from the start. As far as developing goes, there's a few different reasons why you might want to develop. You might want to develop because you can't find blocks of land in a particular area that you're looking for. So the only way you're going to do it is buying an old house and knocking it down and subdividing and getting the land, or may even just buy an old house, knock it down, just build one house on the old. So you don't necessarily have to develop as far as subdividing, but you're just, you know, getting rid of that old house and putting a brand new house on that nice big block in the nice location you're looking for. So it's just a matter of weighing it up. You know, if you're doing a development, if you don't want to be a property developer, you're purely doing it to try and get what you're trying to achieve, you know, probably the easier option is just to buy a block of land, just build a house. You know, you're starting with a clean slate. You let the developer have to worry about all the hassles. You don't have to worry about council requirements and approvals and that sort of stuff. But if you're in a situation where you need to try and maybe haven't got enough equity, or you need to be in a situation you're trying, you know, profit from it in some way to give you to try and reduce the cost of the whole build, I suppose, then, you know, development might be an option for you. You might buy it then and knock the house down, subdivide, sell off a portion of the land. That'll then help you pay for the house that you've always hoped for, and so allow you to get something you might not otherwise be able to get. My advice, if you're doing that sort of thing, is definitely get the help from, get some advice from someone that knows what they're talking about. Developments require quite a lot of money to be able to get into, and if you make some mistakes along the way, they can be really expensive. So my advice is just get as much information as you can up front, so you're really clear before you get in there, because once you've started, development's very similar to a build. Once you've started, you can't stop. You've got to get to the end. With a development, you make money at the end. With a build, you end up with a house at the end. You can't stop in the middle, either option. So with a development, make sure you get all the information up front. Make sure it's going to be really profitable. It's going to give you the outcome you're hoping for. You covered all your bases, so there are no surprises. And you get to the end, and it's going to be a really good experience. So hopefully that's answers you guys' questions, and hopefully it made sense to everybody. And like I said, there's pros and cons for both options. I think it's good for everybody depending on the situation. The key is to do it with your eyes open, understanding all those pros and cons. And so I think if you do that, you end up with a good experience, and you have a good experience, and you tell your friends, you know, how to do it. And again, if anyone needs advice, or feel free to ask a question down the bottom there, or click a share and send it through to your friends, and hopefully they got some useful information out of this. So look forward to talking to you guys soon, and we'll talk again soon. Thanks. Have a good day. Bye.